The recent images released by the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, reveal military operations in the northern West Bank, underscoring the ongoing volatility in this region. The operation, launched by the Israeli army, targets Palestinian armed groups within the occupied Palestinian territories. These images, captured by IDF, show the scale of the military's presence and their operations in one of the most contested and sensitive areas in the region. As the Israeli army intensifies its activities in the northern West Bank, the implications for both Israeli and Palestinian civilians remain profound. This military operation represents not just another phase in the long-standing Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but also a stark reminder of the complex and often violent reality of life in the occupied territories. The northern West Bank, with its mixture of urban areas, villages and refugee camps, has long been a focal point for both Israeli security concerns and Palestinian resistance efforts. The operations come at a time of heightened tensions. Following a series of escalating clashes between Israeli forces and Palestinian militants, the IDF has taken a more aggressive stance in an attempt to dismantle militant cells operating in the area. This move is a response to a series of attacks carried out by Palestinian groups in recent weeks, resulting in casualties on both sides. The objective of the operation, as announced by Israeli officials, is to restore security in the region and neutralize threats posed by these militant factions. However, the broader context surrounding these military operations is one of frustration, fear, and uncertainty for the Palestinian population living under Israeli occupation. For many Palestinians, military incursions such as these are a daily reality that contributes to the heavy toll of occupation, including restricted movement, home demolitions, and loss of livelihood. For the families living in the northern West Bank, the latest wave of military operations means more checkpoints, more violence, and the constant threat of displacement. Images like those captured by the IDF, showing Israeli soldiers in action, paint a chilling picture of the operational scale and the reality of military engagements within the urban and rural landscapes of the West Bank. These visuals are crucial for illustrating the nature of Israel's security strategy, which involves a mix of precision strikes, incursions into Palestinian territories, and efforts to dismantle militant networks operating within those areas. While the IDF justifies such operations as necessary for national security, Palestinian residents and human rights organizations consistently argue that these actions exacerbate the humanitarian crisis in the region. In their view, such military operations only serve to fuel resentment and contribute to the cycle of violence that has persisted for decades. The question of security in the northern West Bank, as framed by Israeli officials, is complex. Israeli military leadership maintains that their operations are targeting groups that are directly responsible for terrorism, focusing on organizations that have launched attacks on Israeli civilians. This, according to Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, is part of a broader strategy to maintain peace and security for Israel's citizens. He has emphasized that the operations are meant to dismantle militant infrastructures and eliminate threats before they can reach Israeli towns and cities. On the other hand, Palestinian groups argue that the Israeli military's actions are indiscriminate and only exacerbate the suffering of civilians who have no part in the violence. For them, the presence of Israeli soldiers in their communities is a constant reminder of an oppressive occupation that has lasted for decades, with little hope for an end to the conflict. As these operations unfold, the impact on civilian infrastructure, including homes, schools, and medical facilities, is significant. Moreover, the role of the international community cannot be ignored. As Israel continues its operations in the West Bank, global powers have expressed varying levels of concern, urging for restraint and highlighting the importance of avoiding civilian casualties. The United Nations, for instance, has called for an immediate cessation of violence and urged both parties to return to negotiations. Yet, despite these calls for diplomacy, the situation on the ground shows little sign of easing. The military operations are also deeply entwined with political developments within both Israel and Palestine. For Israel, the government's hardline stance on security remains a central pillar of its political agenda. Leaders like Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have made it clear that ensuring the safety of Israeli citizens is their primary objective, even if it means continued military intervention in Palestinian territories. For Palestinians, the ongoing military actions serve as a painful reminder of their prolonged struggle for sovereignty and statehood. As the West Bank remains under Israeli control, efforts to engage in meaningful peace talks have repeatedly faltered. The rise of extremist elements within Palestinian factions, combined with the Israeli government's refusal to negotiate under certain terms, only perpetuates the cycle of violence and deepens the division between the two sides. One key aspect of these operations is the role of the media in shaping public perception. Images and videos released by the Israeli army play a significant role in framing the narrative of military success, portraying the operations as necessary to combat terrorism and maintain peace. However, for many Palestinians and their supporters, these images represent a much darker reality, a never-ending cycle of violence and oppression that offers little hope for resolution. The media coverage surrounding these operations often focuses on the military's capabilities and the logistics of the operation itself. However, the human cost of these operations is seldom highlighted in the same detail. The trauma faced by Palestinian families, the destruction of homes, and the long-term effects on the mental and physical health of those living under occupation are rarely given the same attention. As the situation continues to unfold in the northern West Bank, the military's actions have sparked debates not only about security, but also about the morality of occupying a people for over half a century. International law experts continue to question the legality of Israeli military operations in the West Bank, with some arguing that these actions violate the Geneva Conventions, which prohibit the displacement of civilians in occupied territories. The question remains, can military operations alone bring security to a region that has known nothing but conflict for generations? The short answer is likely no. Security for Israel will not come solely through military intervention. Similarly, peace for Palestinians will not be achieved through resistance alone. A more comprehensive long-term solution is needed, one that addresses the root causes of the conflict, respects the rights of all people, and provides a framework for coexistence. As the Israeli army's operation in the northern West Bank continues, the people on the ground are left to face the consequences. The images of Israeli soldiers in action are a stark reminder of the deep divide between the two sides and the ongoing struggle for control, autonomy, and peace. These operations, while claimed to be necessary for national security, only serve to underscore the need for a new approach to resolving one of the world's most intractable conflicts. For those living in the northern West Bank, the battle is not just one of military might, but of survival. Every day brings new challenges, new dangers, and new losses. And as the military operation continues, the hope for a peaceful resolution becomes more distant with each passing day. The residents of the West Bank, Palestinians and Israelis alike, are left to wonder if there will ever be a day when the guns fall silent and peace can finally take root in this troubled region. As the international community watches with bated breath the future of the West Bank and indeed the entire Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains uncertain. The hope for peace may seem faint, but as history has shown, no conflict is beyond resolution if both sides are willing to come to the table. Until then, however, the violence continues and the struggle for peace remains an elusive dream.